Hello everyone, this is Hassan again, and this is our fifth lecture on Scratch game development. So today I'll be showing you some more coding examples. So let's get started. So as you can see, I have opened a new project which is called Untitled 19. Let's change the name to block programming. Right, so first thing, we have a sprite already, right? Let's get another sprite. Let's get an apple. So now what we have is an apple and a cat. Important thing to remember, when you are writing the code, make sure you know which is sprite you are programming. Right now, see the blue border? That means right now we are on the apple sprite. So if you're writing code, you're writing code for the apple. You're not writing code for the cat, which is a sprite 1. If you are writing code for the sprite 1, which is the cat, make sure you switch to sprite 1. Okay, this is very important, because sometimes what happens, we are writing codes, and if we don't look at carefully, we are actually programming something else. Okay, so right now we have two sprites. One is sprite 1 and another is apple. Okay, next there is another important thing which is called backpack. You see at the bottom middle of the screen, you can see it says backpack, and you see there is a direction, so you can pull it up and you can see there are some codes. So you can actually save some codes that you can use later on. So let's say I am dragging this piece of code, right? I can delete this code, but I can use it anytime I want. So let's say you have written some code and you want to use the codes for both of the sprites. So what you need to do, you go to backpack and you drag the code. Also, you can drag the code and put it inside the apple. So if I go to apple, you see the code is there. So these are a few tricks you can use. So maybe you have a big piece of code and you don't want to write it again, so you can save it on a backpack, or you can just drag it and put it on another sprite. Okay, so now let's start programming again. So today we're gonna check what is point in direction means. So let's close our backdrop. So remember, every time we want to start, we need to use this block line. Flag clicked. This flag clicked is linked to this flag. So right now if I click flag, nothing will happen because I don't have any code. I'm just saying when flag clicked, right? Okay, and we know that if we use this block, move 10 steps, by default the cat is moving from left to right, correct? And also by default the direction is point in direction, it says 90 degrees. So 90 degrees actually means you are pointing left to right. So okay, let's delete this. Remember, see, I made a mistake. I was supposed to write codes for the cat, but I am writing it on the apple, so you need to be very careful. So let's delete this and go back to our cat and drag these blocks, move 10 steps, point in direction. So as I was saying, point in direction means when you're saying 90 degrees, it's right. So that means your cat will be moving this way. Okay, if I change this pointing direction, let's say 0, now it's pointing up. Now let's see what happens. So you're pointing in direction 0 and move 10 steps. So let's see what happens. See, it's going up. Why? Because the direction says that you are going up. Okay, you can also point in direction 90, but this time it's negative. So now which way it should go? Let's try. See, it's going this way. So pointing direction is very important, and 180 is down. So usually we use 90 degrees and right. Okay, so if I click this, it moved 50 steps. Okay, so the pointing directions is important. Alright, next thing we want to use forever block. So forever, remember I told you that when you're using forever, that means this cat will continuously keep moving. Okay, so let's see what happens. So move 50 steps is very fast. Let's make it 5. Now let's see what happens. Nothing is happening. I mean, it's moving continuously, but since it touched the edge, it is stopped, right? So what we want to do, we want to see the cat moving. So if it is touching the edge, you're not saying the cat to do something. So there is a block which is called if on edge bounds. So that means what should happen? When it is touching the edge, it should bounce, right? Let's see what happens. So we can see that the cat is bouncing when it is touching the edge. Okay, so we can use this block if on edge bounce. Now since we have an apple, but right now if you're playing, the cat doesn't recognize the apple, right? It's not doing anything when it's touching the apple. So we want to do something. We want to see if the cat touches the apple, something should happen. When you're saying if the cat touches, this is very important because there is a piece of code which says if something happens then. This block is very important because in programming languages, if you start learning Java, Python, C++, C, in any languages we need to use if then statement. So if you do something, this will happen. If you don't do something, this will happen. So these blocks are very, very useful. So if touching, something will happen, right? Remember I told you that every time you use something different, you need to use a cat. So you're saying when flag is clicked and if something then something, right? Remember this is also a flag clicked, so it means when you start running the code, this piece of code will start running and also this piece of code will start running. So what we are trying to do here, if this cat touches the apple, something should happen, right? So if touching, so touching means actually sensing. If you go under sensing, you'll see a lot of codes that are saying touching. From here you're seeing touching mouse pointer, touching edge, touching the apple. And also instead of saying the apple, you can say the color. So I'm going to show you both methods. So if touching the apple, so who is touching the apple? Remember we are on the sprite 1. Okay, so if the sprite 1, this is actually saying that the cat, if the cat it's touching the apple, something should happen. So what should happen? Let's use a sound. By default we have this sound, but you can change the sound, and from the library you can add a new piece of sound. Let's implement this. So now we have two sounds, right? Now we go to scripts. We have chomp and we have meow. So let's use meow, but you can change the sound, right? So play sound meow. So when flag is clicked, if touching the apple, then play sound meow. There are some problems now. If we start running, there will be a problem. Let me show you what's the problem now. See, nothing is happening. It should recognize the apple, right? But nothing is happening. Why? Okay, before I explain, let's get another piece of code. Forever. Why we need a forever block here? Remember, this cat is continuously doing its job. So every time it touches the apple, it should sound, right? But if you don't have the forever block, that means this code is not very active, because it's checking only once. When flag starts, it's saying if touching apple, play sound. But if you use a forever block, I mean the program is continuously running this code to see if it is touching or not. If you don't have the forever, that means it's not running properly, right? Now let's see what happens. We see a sound, but there is a problem with the sound, right? It's not sounding properly. Why? Remember, when it is sounding this meow, it takes some time. You have to consider that time. If you are not considering the time, if you don't have a wait block, remember, a code runs very quickly. So you make sure that there is a wait block, so that it says, okay, play sound, and then wait 1 second before you keep repeating the process. So now let's see what happens. See, now it worked fine. So what happened when it touched the apple? It made the sound, and when it was bouncing back, it touched the apple again. So 2 times, right? Let's check it again. See? So that's why it's very important to understand which piece of code is doing what, why we need forever. Most of the time, if you're using if block, you'll see you need to use forever block. So if you're trying to do something by yourself, make sure when you're using if block, and if your code is not working correctly, make sure you use the forever block to see if the code is working or not. Alright, so in this lecture we learned pointing direction, how to use backpack. We have 2 sprites. We learned how to use the if statement, and we also checked what happens if we touch something. Alright students, so that's it for today. Next week we'll be learning more coding. Exciting, right? Alright, see you next time. Bye.